right, hey guys, glad you're joining us on YouTube. I'm here with Autumn and Dalton. They are joining us for the duration of this video, so you'll want to stay tuned in the whole time this time. No, just kidding. Dalton, Autumn, how are you guys doing?
I am doing great. It has been a great start to the week.
Why?
I don't know.
Ducey just closed everything
It's
for
been
another
chill.
30 days.
Yeah, I mean, sucks can't go to the gym, but it's just been chill. Besides Doug Ducey.
You're resting in the sovereignty of God. All right.
Resting on the.
I'm wrestling with the sovereignty of God and learning to rest in it.
It's a good thing to be able to just chill, just not worry sometimes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Autumn, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I just graduated. So.
Yes, you had. Yeah, hey, there will be no more
sorry.
touching. I mean,
Retracted.
just kidding. Yeah, you had graduation, prom, award ceremony.
Yeah. So I'm glad we got it all done.
So now you got your piece of paper and you can officially go to college,
Exactly.
whenever that might be.
Might not happen this year. I don't know. Eventually.
Cool. Well, hey, we're going to play a little game. First, we're going to play a little game. We each chose 3 theme songs that we think summarize 2020.
Yep.
I mean, how could you summarize? There's so many ways I feel like we could summarize the year 2020. So we're going to do 3 rounds. Then we're going to kind of just vote amongst ourselves, like whose song was the best right there.
Mm-hmm.
If there was no copyright laws, we would actually play the song and maybe we'll sing it a little bit. Maybe, I don't know.
I'll sing it.
Yeah.
I'll sing it.
So we're going to go round 1, round 2, round 3.
Let's do it.
All right. Who's starting? Well, how about we all start different? We'll go. Autumn starts first round, then you start, then I'll. Okay.
You're up.
So round 1, Autumn.
Okay, my first song is Girl on Fire by Alicia Keys because the girl represents the mountain. It's on fire. So, yeah.
Is that how does that go? This girl is on fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
But just
I like that
replace
song.
Girl with Mountain, and then
Yeah.
there's 2020. Oh, there's 2 songs for you.
Cool.
So that was pretty good, but just be prepared for mine, okay? My next one is "I'm on Fire" by Bruce Springsteen.
So what's the chorus to that?
Ooh, I'm on fire. That's how it goes. And I mean, I think it's a good song.
So is the I correlating to the mountain, or
Yes.
that's just the state of your soul in this
I think
pandemic?
I think it could be a little bit of both, but mostly the mountain.
Yeah.
Mostly the soul.
Okay.
Mostly the soul.
All right. Well, I'm getting away from the fire theme. The song is not very well known.
Let's hear it.
It's called "Wash Your Hands" by Blake Rules from Kids Trap number 3. Do you know this song?
Yep.
It goes, "Wash your hands,
Watch your.
wash your hands," and it's like this cool hip hop beat.
Heard it on the winter retreat.
Yes, that's
we
right.
played it. We
And
all,
you didn't know that that would have to be ingrained in us from now
I remember the so.
on. All right. How do we vote? I don't know. You guys was like the same song almost.
Yeah,
Well,
but
mine's better.
I think mine's better because it talks.
You guys
about,
don't think
You
mine's
didn't even
better?
listen to this song before yesterday.
Yes, I did. I listened to it. He sings. Ooh.
I'm voting for Autumn because
Well, you know what? I'm
I
voting
just-
for you
yes,
because that is a very funny song.
it
So
is
if
an
I vote
awesome
for
song.
you, then is it a 3-way tie?
Yeah,
Vote for mine.
vote for mine.
No, because then you're gonna win and I don't win.
But if you vote for him, then he wins.
There's gotta be a
No,
winner.
yeah, you would have to vote for him if you want. Okay, vote for Dalton.
Vote for him.
I'll vote for you.
Yes!
I want you to get any
Boom.
votes.
Yes.
Y'all, look it up. "Wash Your Hands" by Blake Rules. Kids Trap
Thanks.
3. So good. Okay, round 2.
My
I
turn.
have 1 point.
Okay, here we go. 6 Feet Apart by Luke Combs.
Is that really
Okay.
a song?
Yep. It's a country song. Wrote it about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. So
Published it on YouTube.
Sweet.
Okay. It talks about how he can't hug anyone, can't be with his family.
Yikes.
And then at the end of everything, he says, "When we're not 6 feet apart," something like that.
I like
So-
that. I need to check that out.
It's very catchy.
Dude, all
Very
right.
chill.
I got a country song too for this round.
Oh yeah.
Okay? Hank Williams Jr., "A Country Boy Can Survive." Yes. Talks about, like, I don't know, hunting in the woods and getting water from the well.
Okay.
And no matter what happens, country boy can survive, something like that.
Yeah, I like that.
So,
I like mine better.
Mine is "Stuck with You" by Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande because
That's a good one too.
it's
like
a good
all
song.
pop songs.
Well, yeah, that's my style. And it's talking about quarantine and how you're quarantined like with your family and you just have no choice.
So that's a new one too.
Yeah, it came out over quarantine, and it's like little clips over like you could just send in a video of just like you and like your husband or your wife or whatever, and then you're just like stuck with each other, getting annoyed with each other. You have no choice.
Cool. Justin Bieber and who? Ariana Grande?
Yeah.
All right, what we're going to do this time, on the count of 3, we all point to the... Okay, you can't vote for yourself.
We know the clear winner.
You
Okay.
point to the person you want to vote for.
Okay.
All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Dang, we all tied. All right.
You voted for mine?
Yes, because I voted for Chase Armstrong.
Hey, this is not...
How
you,
did mine
you just
not
vote
win?
for your...
You did not want
I
me to
voted
win.
for yours.
She doesn't want me to win.
I just like country music better than pop music.
6 feet
Yeah.
apart? Come on.
Country boy can't survive.
I am the clear
That's why I
winner.
voted for you. Okay,
We'll see what they say.
last one.
Clear winner right here.
Oh, this is my turn.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Oh, man. I have like a long explanation for this one, but
You do?
this is totally different, so I don't know. It's not... Yeah, anyways. My third one is "It Is Well With My Soul," the hymn, all right?
That's a good one.
Yeah, and here's the cool thing. The guy who wrote this, Horatio Spafford, which I don't know when he wrote it, 1700s. So he lost his business in a big Chicago fire, 1871. All right? He was a real successful businessman. He had a 4-year-old son around that same time die of scarlet fever. And then he was like, okay, we need to get away. Let's go to England, with our family, have a little vacation. And he had 4 daughters and his wife. And he was going to finish up some business stuff in Chicago. So he sent them to go sail to England, right? And then he gets a telegram weeks later that the ship had crashed and his 4 daughters died at sea.
I've heard that, yeah.
Wow.
Right. And so then he gets on a boat, goes to be with his wife. The captain at some point says, hey, this is about the area where your daughters died. And so think about the grief this dude is in. He sits down there on the ship and starts writing the lyrics to "It Is Well With My Soul." Super. Yeah, and so I thought, like,
deep.
man, like this is our lives, at least my life right now, isn't as bad as that. But how cool in the midst of troubling times to be able to say, it is still well with my soul because God's on the throne. So that's cool. Little different spin, but all right, Autumn, what do you got?
Mine is "Seasons" by Hillsong.
Oh, good song.
It's one of my favorite worship songs because, like, right now we're in kind of a tough season. Like, even though it's hot outside, we're kind of like in the winter. Like, it just like is everything just seems like hard right now, and like I feel like it's really, really easy to lose hope. But eventually, this will end.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not go back to normal, but eventually, it will get better.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's great. Did you choose a Christian song too?
Come
You
on.
didn't.
I didn't choose a Christian song. Let's this is not serious. Okay. It's the end of the world as we know it.
Hey, that could be a Christian song. That is biblical. The world's going to end someday.
That's true.
Yeah.
So that's the one by REM.
All right.
So
Cool.
I thought that was
Yeah.
funny.
That's fun. That's good.
Even if the world's not ending, right?
It feels like it.
Yeah. It's catchy, you know.
Yeah.
It's catchy.
All right.
That's
So let's do the point vote thing again. So I'm in the lead really right now.
yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't have
Technically.
said that. Now y'all won't want to vote for me. But all right, 1, 2, 3. Dang, we all tied
Ooh,
again.
I actually wanted to vote.
But then
for
I
you, but
won.
I kind of wanted to win.
I mean, I liked because just like the story
Yeah, the
behind
story
that
is cool.
song is actually pretty.
I love that
sad
story.
and deep.
Dang, I love that story. Okay. All right, well, hey, we're going to stay together now and do a little Bible study and be a little bit more interactive. And these guys got some good things to add to the conversation. So for the next 5 weeks, this is coming out Wednesday night, and you might be watching it whenever, but for the next 5 of these videos, we're going to be going through the book of Habakkuk. Maybe you've called it Habakkuk. Habakkuk.
It's Habakkuk.
I like to say Habakkuk. You can call him Habby if you want.
Ham.
Habs, Ham,
Ham is
Haba. But this is a minor prophet with a major message. Minor prophet doesn't mean like they were minor. It's just the genre. All right. But here's kind of the background of the book of Habakkuk. The people of Israel are facing national corruption. They're facing international crisis, coming off the heels of this great spiritual renewal. All right. So King Josiah had really brought healing and transformation to the nation of Israel after some really horrible kings, and they've gotten rid of the idols. They've directed their attention to God, their worship to God. But then King Josiah dies after like 37 years, and his son Jehoiakim gets on the throne, and all of a sudden they're just going down this downward spiral, down the tanks. Babylon is rising to power, and there's mess, there's chaos, there's crisis all around Habakkuk. And this book is an intimate conversation between Habakkuk and God. All right. So in the midst of this crisis, in the midst of this chaos, Habakkuk cries out to God, and then God actually answers him. And it's 3 chapters, and it's a dialogue back and forth. Habakkuk will speak, God will speak. Habakkuk will speak, God will speak. Then Habakkuk kind of just praises God and ends up worshiping him. So that's where we're going. But let's just kind of kickstart the conversation. Right now, what are the kind of questions you guys are asking in the year 2020?
Like right now, it's just hard just to, like when's the corona gonna end, or when is just things are gonna just go back to normal, and it's difficult to see on in a lot of it, but yeah, it's just stuff like that, stuff like you don't know the answer to.
Yeah, because you got football season you're waiting on, you got college that you're waiting to go to. Oh man. Yeah, is there any other questions you're throwing out in your head, Autumn?
I'm just wondering, like, right now, like, what should I believe, like, what is right and wrong, honestly, because there's so many political opinions right now, and I'm just wondering, I'm like, what is, the only ultimate truth is God, and I'm like, what should I believe in,
Right.
What is...
Yeah, there's so many facets to the whole race conversation.
Exactly.
I mean, you got extremists on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have valid voices on both sides. Yeah. And somewhere in the middle of that, hopefully God can lead us to clear answers, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, along with that, there's just political venom all the time. Like, I've been thinking, we got the fires, we got coronavirus, we have the racial tensions. There's an election coming up in November.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Like, that is not going to be fun.
Mm-mm.
Oh, man, I don't even want to. All right. Okay. Yeah, how long's the fire going to be burning on the mountain? Like, there's just, man, I feel like we can sit back with Habakkuk, and I think it was probably worse for him than it is for us in some ways, at least. We can certainly very much relate. Like, we're asking questions in our day and age, in the year 2020, saying, God, like, what's going on? Where are you? Every day it seems like I get on my news feeds, and it's like just more discouraging news. And it's like, God, are you going to do something about this? What are you going to do? When are you going to do it?
Yeah.
What's the plan here? So, Habakkuk, same way, and he's burdened by what he sees around him. I mean, he's aching. His heart is broken by what he's seeing in his country, by what he's seeing from the outside of the Israel nation. And he's got himself wondering, does God really care? Like, where is he? And like I said, through these chapters, we're going to see Habakkuk wrestling with these doubts and this confusion. At first, he seems worried. He seems almost fearful. But by the end of the book, by the end of this 5-week journey we're going to be taking through this, we see Habakkuk he's no longer discouraged, but he's devoted to God.
Yeah.
He's no longer worried and confused. He's confident in God, and he actually worships God. And I was just sharing with these guys a little while ago, like the end of Habakkuk 3, verses 17 through 19 is just this powerful. I mean, Habakkuk, right in the verses we're going to look at today, he's here, and by the end of the book, God moves him all the way over here. And so that's my personal hope as we jump into this study. That's my hope for you all as we kind of go through this, that what was written and experienced 2,500 years ago can really speak to us because God's word is never changing here in the year 2020. So I'm hoping that God really brings us to a place of worship and confidence in who He is, and not consumed by the chaos and the just mess around us. So Habakkuk chapter 1. Dalton and I have the same page number in our Bibles.
We're kind of special.
785. Turn there. If you have Autumn's Bible, turn to page 850 something.
What is it?
52.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll have the words on the screen anyways. But Dalton, why don't you read verses 1 through 4 for us?
So Habakkuk 1 through 4. Verse 1. The oracle that Habakkuk the prophet saw. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear, or cry to you violence, and you will not save? Why do you make me see iniquity, and why do you idly look at wrong? Destruction and violence are before me, strife and contention arise. So the law is paralyzed, and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous, so justice goes forth perverted.
Awesome, thanks, man. All right, so this is Habakkuk speaking. All right. What are some observations you guys have here in these first 4 verses?
So right off the bat, you can see how, he's questioning God a lot with, like when you cry out to violence and you don't save, stuff like that. And you can just see that a lot pretty much throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big thing that I noticed.
Yeah, I love, he's asking questions, he's laying out his heart, but I don't think he's attacking God. Like, I think there's a difference between, attacking or throwing blame on God and just being raw and vulnerable and saying, like, God, where are you? Like, what is going on? Like, his heart is breaking by what he sees. I think a lot of us, we're looking at our world right now, and our hearts hopefully are breaking, right? And he's just coming before God raw and being real and saying, where are you? Questions are kind of a funny thing in the church sometimes, or, so Autumn, like, why are we intimidated as Christians sometimes to bring our questions and doubts to God or to bring our questions and doubts to the church?
Well, I think especially like in church, it's kind of like the fear of being judged or like being called like being stupid, because if you don't fully understand the passage or what the pastor says, like you just don't want to say anything,
right? Because
like that was the truth, and you just like kind of just like listen to it. But I think what we need to realize is that although what the pastor says is, from God, it's not God speaking. Like the only truth is in Jesus and what He says in the Word.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think it's okay to question, what
Absolutely.
people say, what, what's said in the church, what
Absolutely.
God's plan is, and stuff like that.
People mess up on what they say all the time,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. And going back to like your fear of being judged, like, I know for me, like, there's so many things I don't have figured out, when it comes to the Bible and theology and everything. Like, sometimes I feel like my head's just this big mess. But, especially as a youth pastor, sometimes I get self-conscious, like, oh no, if people really knew the doubts and the questions I have, then I'd be exposed, then I'd be judged. But I think that's the reality for all believers. Like, we go through times where we struggle, where we have questions, where we have doubts. And I think the best thing that we can do in the midst of that is to go to God, is to sit in His presence and to stay there until, until we have that relief, until we hear Him, until He draws us near, or even to share it in the church. Like, I hate the fact that the church is a place where we feel intimidated to bring our questions sometimes, because I think the church, the body of believers, should be the place where we are bringing our questions. Like, let's wrestle with the issues of homosexuality and what the Bible says about that. Those are hard things to wrestle with, right? Yeah. With racial tension, with, anything and everything. The church should be the place where we're looking at the lens, where we're looking at issues through the lens of Scripture and saying, what does God say to this? What does God's Word say to this? How can we navigate these areas as believers? So, thanks for sharing, Autumn. I love, Habakkuk's, he's laying it all out there. And questions don't intimidate God, right? Questions can intimidate me because I don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
But there's no question that intimidates God. He has all the answers. And I think part of Habakkuk is wanting to ask these questions to God, knowing that God can answer and has the answer. And maybe Habakkuk doesn't get the answer he wants, but God certainly does have the answer. Yeah, is there any other observations? Dalton, do you have any observations?
So you can see a bigger picture, right, of one main thing is how it's all a part of God's plan. But when you dig deeper into the actual, 3 verses there, it's kind of showing how Habakkuk felt like God, abandoned him. And really that wasn't the case. It was just showing how God abandoned Jesus. I think Chase can do a better job at explaining that. But yeah, that's just something when you look deeper into the passage, something big that you can see in there.
Yeah, so there's this chaos and crisis happening, right? There's national corruption, there's international crisis for the nation of Israel. Habakkuk's watching just everything that King Josiah had built up being torn down and ruined, and sin is running rampant. And so Habakkuk starts asking the question, he says, God, why do you seem so indifferent to this? Why do you seem so insensitive? Why aren't you helping? Why aren't you doing anything about this? How long, O God, will this carry on? Will the violence carry on? Will your law be neglected? Will wickedness abound? And so I think there is probably, like you said, there's a very real feeling that Habakkuk has where it seems like God has abandoned him.
Yeah.
But the reality is God hasn't abandoned Habakkuk.
Yeah.
I think you said it earlier, or maybe it was before the video started when we were talking, but you said something like, I feel like, I've been discouraged, and, why would God do this? But ultimately, you feel that way. That's a legit feeling. But at the same time, God is working all things out for those who love Him, Romans 8:28. And so, that's the tension Habakkuk has here. But the beautiful thing, right, is these 4 verses point us directly to the cross.
Yeah.
Because on the cross, Jesus cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? And so, and remember how the sun goes dark, right? And so we have like this very real picture that God just turns His back on Jesus when He's on the cross. God literally abandons Jesus. And then in the process of God abandoning Jesus, we have the promise that we will never be abandoned, right? God never abandoned Habakkuk. God never abandons us because He forsook His own Son so that He could always be with us, so that we can always have that relationship with Him. Yeah. There's the big kind of theme verse in Habakkuk is chapter 2, verse 4. It says, but the righteous shall live by his faith. And that's New Testament talk right there. We are saved by grace through faith. And faith isn't something we can grab onto necessarily, but it's something we can put our trust in and hope in. And so when we live by faith, regardless of the pain and the struggles we're in, we can know that God is sovereign, that He's always with us, that He's always faithful, even when we are faithless. 2 Timothy or 1 Timothy, somewhere in there, it says He is always faithful because He cannot disown Himself. I feel like I didn't communicate that super well either, but
I think when some people read it, watch the video. I mean, if they're studying the Bible while watching the video, I mean,
yeah,
they can figure
it's just such a cool truth, though.
Yeah, it is.
We will never be abandoned. We will never be forsaken because Jesus was. Yeah. I mean, that's the depths of God's love for us. That's the depth of Christ's love for us. That we have the promise He will always be with us because He did forsake Jesus. So, all right, so let's pull out a couple application points from this text. Autumn, do you have an application?
I think with this 2020 feels kind of abandoned, honestly. Like, we're just like, what's going on? We lost the rest of our high school year, like, high school experience and stuff like that. And it was really, really hard to see what God was doing and to see, like, the light at the end of the tunnel, because we were just, like, stuck in our house. We couldn't do anything. We didn't know what was going to happen. And we just felt like, I felt like God had kind of forgotten about me, even though it was happening, to millions of other kids in my class. And so I think you had two options. You could either lose faith or you could just focus on Jesus, because that's like one of your only choices. It's kind of like a point of desperation. And so I think like through this time, I kind of just realized God's plan for me, and it only strengthened me. Because it kind of forced me to focus on Him instead of focusing on graduation and prom and stuff like that. And my only option was to choose Him.
Yeah, I love that. So when we're burdened by an issue like Habakkuk is here, or when we're pained, or when we're struggled, in a struggle like you, we can take those feelings straight to God, right? And we can pray, we can cry out to Him, we can be raw, we can be vulnerable. And the transformation that happens in Habakkuk as a result of that, over the course of these 3 chapters, which 3 chapters we can read in 10 minutes right here.
Yeah.
But this could have been years for Habakkuk. We don't know the timeline from chapter 1 to chapter 3. Yeah. It could have been months. I don't know. But the transformation was kind of like what you talked about, right? He's starting out questioning, where are you, God? And then he's moved to a place, all right, I get it. You love me. I'm going to worship you. He ends in rejoicing. And so, the process of getting from Habakkuk 1 to Habakkuk 3 is what we're going to be going over for the next few weeks. But I think part of it is being drawn into the presence of Christ in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of the crisis, in the midst of the struggle, and sitting in His presence until the reality of His sovereignty outweighs the chaos around you, or overshadows the chaos around you. I think that one more application point would be maybe that Habakkuk was burdened over this, and it was a righteous burden. It was a righteous. I think to be sad that lots and lots of people are suffering due to coronavirus in many different ways. Not only those who are getting sick, but businesses that are suffering. Like, it's okay to be burdened over that fact. It's okay to be burdened over the fact that there is racial unrest in our country, and for our hearts to be broken over that reality. Because I think when we align ourselves more with God's heart, our hearts will then be broken over the things that break His. So I think the fact that Habakkuk cares shows us that this is a man of God. Yeah. And when we care about the brokenness around us, and we want God to do something to fix it, I think that communicates we desire God's kingdom to come here on this earth. The thing is, we just got to sit and wait in God's timing, not our own timing. All right. So I just want to close with an illustration. All right. So my oldest son, Cade, he's 7 now, but when he was in kindergarten, I say kindergarten wrong. Kindergarten.
Oh, yeah.
I say kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
But he got sick at school one day, all right? And the nurse called my wife's phone, and like I didn't recognize the number, so I never answered those things, And I didn't get the voicemail until like hours later. And I listened to the voicemail finally, right? Yeah, and the nurse saying, "Hey, Cade's in the office. He's sick. He needs to go, come pick him up." So I got it literally 4 hours after she initially called, and I felt awful. I immediately call her and I say, "Hey, I'm on my way." And I know, like my son, right? I mean, he's the oldest child. He's very much he likes to be ordered and structured, and he gets worried easily, type of thing. And so I just know he's sitting in that office for 4 hours, just kind of on pins and needles, anxious, worried, saying, "How long, Dad? How long, Mom? What's going on? Are you there? Are you guys ever coming for me? Like, what's going to happen?" How long is this going to last? Probably kind of relatable to Habakkuk, right?
Exactly.
And then I call the nurse. I tell her, right, I'm on the way. And I'm sure at that point she went over to Cade and said, hey, your dad's coming. And at that news hitting him probably, eased some of the tension. But at the same time, he still had real questions, right? He still had real pain. He was still waiting. But there was the hope that his dad was coming. And I think that story kind of illustrates our relationship to God. Like, God doesn't miss phone calls, of course, right? He hears us all the time. He knows that the mountain's on fire and that the world is just in chaos right now. And he's working in his perfect timing in that. And in the waiting, if we're sitting in that waiting room, it can be painful, right? It can be frustrating. It can be scary even.
Yeah.
We might not understand it all, but we have that hope, right? Like, through Jesus on the cross, we know that God has come to save us, that he's coming again. And so we kind of have this message, so to speak, that, hey, it will be okay. But in the meantime, we have to wait. We have to trust, as hard as it might be, because we know that God is sovereign, that he does love us, that he's working all things together for our good, like you said earlier, Romans 8:28, and that one day we'll be with him in the new heaven and the new earth, and it'll be just so sweet. So that's the first part of our journey into Habakkuk here, and hopefully, like him, we will be brought from a place of questioning to worshiping, and a place from chaos to comfort and confidence in who God is. So thanks for tuning in and joining us, guys, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Autumn, Dalton, thank you for joining us, and I think we need to throw the penguins at the camera and sign off. Peace. Oh, man, I hit it.
Nice pen throwing.